What's up, everyone? Hey, Mike Hambright from FlipNerd.com. I recently hosted an online event for members of my professional real estate investor Facebook group, which you can access by visiting FlipNerd.com/professional. It's only for professionals, not new folks, but I wanted to share this with everybody. And today I wanted to share this amazing event that we call the Freedom Series with 8 industry legends. Today's episode is with the one and only Mr. John Martinez. Awesome, everybody. Next up, we're going to bring up my buddy, Mr. John Martinez. He's going to join us here. Hey, John, how are you, bud?
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Good, good. So you're enjoying the lockdown, right? I mean, you've this was a market made for you, right?
Almost. I thought so at first, because I haven't changed anything, but it is a bit more difficult when the kids are also in lockdown.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So a little change there.
Yep. Awesome. Well, hope you're doing well. Congrats on the new house. I saw you posted some pictures. That's amazing. Yeah. So, John, glad you're here today. We're talking about this event is really, 4th of July is coming up here. We're talking a lot about freedom and what being an entrepreneur or real estate investor, you help a lot more real estate investors in investing yourself, and you've changed the lives of a lot of people, really helped them build out their teams. But just what this industry or being an entrepreneur has done for us and the freedom it's provided. So my question for you and anyone that's listening right now that has not yet posted it in the comments here, like, what does freedom mean to you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so good question. I looked at these questions beforehand, so I kind of cheated and I thought a lot about it today. But freedom, I think it has to do with time. It's 100% time. And I think when it comes to time, control of time and your options, because you can have let's say you have a lot of time, but you have no options. So you can be unemployed, but since you have no money, you really can't go do anything. You can't help anyone out. So you have no options, right? Right. The opposite side of that spectrum is you can have all the options in the world, all the money in the world, but no time to actually do anything with it. So I think it's having the time, have just complete control. So what you do with your time, no restrictions at all. Who you do those things with, who you see, who you take along on your adventures, anything. Just complete and total control of your time with unlimited options. To me, that would be complete freedom.
Yep. And so how would you say, you've been around a lot of real estate investors, and due to the fact of like what you do, you help with sales training, you help people really, you're generally not helping brand new people. You're helping people that are trying to level up, right?
Right.
So, there's a lot of people in this group. In fact, we created this group with active real estate investors. If people apply and they're not actively doing deals at least 10 to 20 a year, then we don't allow them into the group. So that's what this group is all about, is kind of leveling up those that want to take their business to the next level. So what are some of the things you've seen in terms of how people can kind of break through that? A lot of people on their own are able to do 2 or 3 deals a month. And again, I'll tell you, and you know this, I know you agree with this. I just want to say for anybody that's joined us since we started, the goal is never units. The goal is not necessarily money, even though we all want to make more money. The goal is those resources give you the ability to start to add a team and scale your business and stuff like that, and give you more of your time back, which we just talked about. So talk a little about what makes the difference between the people that you've seen that break through that kind of self-employed role to being more of a business owner.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot to break through, and I'll tell you why. In order to get to that place where you're doing some deals and you're making some money, in order to get there from nothing, you have to grind it out, right? So it could be the first 6 months, year, first 5 years. Most investors, anyone starting a new business learns that in order to be successful, I have to just work my butt off. In order to be more successful, I have to work even harder. Mm-hmm. So what I see the more successful, I'd say, entrepreneurs or investors do is at some point they flip that and they say it's no longer about working harder. It's about leveraging the resources I have. And it's just a mindset shift. So they stop working so hard and they say, what do I have that can replace 10 minutes here, an hour here, my time here? And they start to focus on systems, on people, on automation, and taking some of that money they've made and just leveraging the living daylights out of it. So I think it's those who are successful can make that mind shift change, which again is really hard because you get to a certain place by grinding, but they shift to, okay, I'm done, and now I'm going to start leveraging, and they start scaling back their time involved in the business instead of doing more.
Yeah. And it's hard too. We're, as real estate investors, we're all cheap. We're trying to buy everything at a discount. I'll just do it myself. And so, on some level, you have to bet on yourself and say, do I want a job or do I want a business? Right.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you have kids, you have a family, you're having more and more children as time goes by. Not kidding. But, a lot of real estate investors don't realize that they don't have time. They think, oh, I own a business, until something happens. It could be more kids. It could be a health issue. It could be other things that you realize, I really don't have freedom at all. Like I am self-employed. I make money. Maybe it's more than I made in the job I had last, but you don't really have that time, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a big difference between owning a business and having a job, and you can confuse the two quite easily.
Right.
And that speaks to me, because that's my number one goal, is to not be needed. Just have a business that runs autonomously without me. Again, I think mindsets change as you go on. In the beginning, I thought it was sexy to run a lot of stuff and to be heavily involved. And the bigger operation you had, the more value you had as a person. I know that's weird, but I think a lot of people I'm going to have a business that's huge and offices everywhere and 500 people under me. And the more I started to go down that road, I realized that was just making my job harder. And I was giving myself harder and harder and harder work. So that's kind of when I made that shift we talked about a moment ago about, okay, how do I accomplish the same by taking me out of it? So yeah, I think, I think that's as good as answer as I'm going to give.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, obviously you are, just the top sales trainer in the industry here. Talk about, for folks that, I think there's this, and this isn't intended to be a promotion for you, although a lot of people will work with you, and I hope more people will work with you. So this isn't meant to be a plug for those of you that are watching, but it's a little bit of a shameless plug, I guess, is people investing in themselves. I think a lot of times people have been in sales before, or, I've been guilty of hiring salespeople that are like, he's kind of, I guess my best description would be, he seems salesy and he's a pleasant guy, like nice to talk to. There's a difference between being nice to talk to and being able to structure a deal. And so talk about this in the context of, Gary Harper was on a little bit ago, and he said, one of the things he said is how to get more freedom is be willing to invest in yourself. Right. And your business. So talk about the importance of investing in yourself through improving your sales skills, sales techniques for you or your team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in that too. I invest heavily in myself. Sometimes it means buying stuff or taking courses. Sometimes it means just buckling down and spending time learning something or studying something. It can mean all kinds of different things, but investing in yourself is super important. And, when it comes to sales, to relate it to freedom, let's say you're a solopreneur, you're doing well, you're doing 5-10 deals a month, you're kicking butt. Well, there comes a time where if you want more freedom, you have to get more efficient at what you do, right? So that's going to mean, okay, how do I take what is 3 calls for me to typically close a deal and turn it into 1? How do I take that 90-minute sales call and turn it into 45? How do I increase my conversion rates so I don't have to be on 25 appointments a week or make 25 offers, but I can get the same with just 10? And then you can extrapolate that out to a sales team and things like that. But so when it comes to freedom, and what I said in the beginning, time, well, there comes a time where more activity only gives you more of a job, and you have to switch and say, how do I leverage the leads I have? How do I leverage the time I have with sellers? And how do I start winning some of that time back? And that means conversion rates. And so that's kind of how sales, I believe, translates into this conversation.
Yeah. And I think, Pace just mentioned in the last one, and I've said this before too, is when people say, well, I want to buy a house, I want to double my business. It's like, okay, well, you need to double your leads. Not necessarily double, but you need, think of that top of that funnel, right? Yeah. And so I need, you can't just say I want a house. It's like, okay, well, go get 20 leads. Like 20 leads should equal a house if you're closing at 5%, something like that, right? And I think as a business owner, you have to think about, okay, well, it's not the end result. It's like, how at the top of the funnel do you say, okay, I need more leads? And guess what you're going to need if you need more leads? More people to work those leads, because unless you want to work harder, then that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to have diminishing returns. So as you grow, larger staff, things falling through the cracks, you might close 5%, 1 out of 20. But if you double or triple the amount of business you're doing, that might dip down to 2 or 3%. And now we're on paper thin margins, right? And you start to get into a dangerous area, and you're working harder and harder and harder to get the same thing. I've worked with a lot of investors now, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard the story where it was, I knew I needed to scale to get myself out of the business. I ended up going from 10 deals a year to 50, made the same amount of income with 10 times the headaches, the stress, the turn, just killing themselves. So with scaling, you have to get better, right? So in sales specifically, you have to convert more, because as you scale and you have diminishing returns, you're going to have to make up for those diminishing returns somewhere, or at some point you go into the red. You just have a big business I've read 2 stories about multi-billion-dollar businesses this week that, costs got out of hand, and it doesn't matter if you're doing 20 billion a year. Once you have those paper thin margins and dip into the red, no matter how big your business is, it could go south.
Yeah. And in some instances, it's a little bit different too. Like, I think a lot of real people, let's say there's a lot of people that want to be real estate investors, and they start to have some level of success, but they're doing it all. And so they make it work because it's the skin off their back, right? They're just hustling and just hustling through it, right? Yeah. But they're not the best salesperson that they could have. And that's such a key role. Like I've had, students and people before that I'm like, look, like we have this joke with my wife and I, she's like, if she had ever had to be in the acquisitions role, we would have never bought a house, because she's just very risk averse. She's very pleasant to talk to. Like, that's not a problem, but she's just not she just is not the right person to be in a sales role. And if I was responsible for managing cash in our business, like, we would have been out of business a long time ago. And I'm not incompetent. I put it off until it's like a bigger issue. And at that point, like, you might be dead. Right. So, but sometimes there's people that are entrepreneurs that could be great real estate investors. They could be the great owner of a company, but they're not necessarily the right person in the sales role. And I've seen people that try to force themselves to do that versus finding the right person. And that right person sometimes can run circles around them in an acquisitions position, right?
Yeah. I mean, like everything else in the world, bringing on that first person, it's hard to let go. But absolutely. I mean, I can just speak personally. I'm a sales trainer, and I don't even handle sales for my own company. Not because I can't, right? But because of burnout. I know if I'm doing sales 8 hours a day, then I'm going to hit a point where I'm no longer effective, right? Because it's burnout. It's too much volume. Yep. So I know, even though I can do it, someone else can do it better than I can, because they can do it all the time. They can have all the conversations, every conversation. They're chipper. They love talking to people. They love meeting people, and that energizes them. So even in my own business, being a sales trainer, I outsource sales. I know if I give them the system, they are built to just go at it. And because of that, because of their personality, 1-to-1, could I crush it? Probably. But when we're talking about all day long, every day, I'm not the best person for that role. Yeah.
It doesn't give you the lifestyle you want or the freedom you want. Doesn't allow you to focus on growing the business or living the life you want, right? You're basically in a job at that point. So
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, John, what's the biggest piece of advice you could give to people that are trying to get more freedom in their life, right? So, and we're kind of defining that as probably more time and more money. There's a bunch of people anybody that's watching this right now or that's going to watch it in the future is, I think everybody wants to make more money. They want more of their time back. They want to work less, like all those things. What's the biggest piece of advice you can give to people that are listening to this right now?
Yeah. First of all, I would say all money does is lets you have more time and lets you control how you spend it. So again, I think it just comes down to time. The money just helps you control more of your time. But the biggest advice I could give is probably the what I had to do myself to kind of start to transition from grinding to trying to own a business. And it was really limiting myself, limiting how much I worked, how much I had control of. And it started small, right? Hey, I'm going to, we're all 24/7, business owners. So it started with, I'm taking a day off, or an hour off, and just baby steps. and letting that grow until you get used to it, right? And then you don't want to go backwards. And it's, you know what, I'm only going to work 4 days a week, and you get used to it, and you don't want to go backwards. So we're running multiple businesses now that I think I'm involved maybe 3 to 4 hours a week, but I'm still at that point where I've gone even further, where I've told myself, what would happen if it's real morbid, but if I passed away? These businesses still have to run and support my family if I wasn't there. So even if it is just 4 hours a week, a lot of people would say, dream job, great, you made it. But I'm still worrying, right? I'm still going, again, instead of enjoying my time, I'm spending my time worrying, thinking, if something happened to me, how's my family what are they gonna do, right? So I'm now focused on how do I get out completely where the business is autonomous and I literally own it as an asset and don't run it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And everybody has different goals. Not everybody wants that. I think a lot of people would love that, right? So it kind of depends on what everybody's goals are.
Yeah.
I think, but that's important to think about. Sometimes we kind of realize that we have a legacy, we have a family behind us, that you could get insurance and things like that, but it's not quite the same. And I think it's a great goal is, I don't know if you heard me up front, we had this wild hair idea last week about, like, what if we just buy an RV and just leave for a year? And there's a pretty good chance we're going to do that here, like right after this next Investor Fuel coming up in August. Like, let's just go. Yeah. And sounds crazy, but I know we'll figure it out. And I know it'll force me to be more resourceful, get things done in a compact period of time, and force me to enjoy. We're going to go to all these amazing places if we do it. It's going to force me to enjoy that more. Now I just kind of take, life for granted sometimes, right? Yeah. It's easy to do. But no, I think it's a great thing to say, how do I disappear? How do I make a business run without
yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to disappear. I'm probably never going to disappear, right? But what it means is you have the control. If you want to, you can. If you need to, you can, right? So it doesn't mean you have to disappear, but you have the option. It's that option that you're looking for.
Yeah. And I can say this with all honesty, 13 years almost in business now. Whenever I leave town, like, my business does better because I'm just out of the way. Like, I'm just like, because I'm an idea guy, right? I'm like, oh, I got this idea for something. Like, when that eliminates, people can just like put their head down and do what they need to do, then they're more effective without me. So awesome. Well, John, if folks want to learn more about you, I mean, a lot of people that are watching already know you. Where can they go to learn more about what you've got going on?
Yeah, MidwestRev.com is our core website. So Midwest, REV, as in Victor, MidwestRev.com. Tons of free videos and stuff like that. We've also got a YouTube channel. So if you search Midwest Revenue Group, probably 150, 200 videos of just free training and stuff. Everything from running a business to, obviously it's mostly sales stuff, but there's a variety of stuff in there. REI specific for lead managers, acquisition managers, and for the business owners and how to run those teams and build those types of teams. So Midwest Revenue Group, the website or the YouTube channel, probably the two best places to go.
Awesome. We'll drop a link here in the comments in just a second. So, John, great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Mike, as always.
Looking forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for being such a big giver, my friend.
Yeah, see you soon.
Okay, take care. Hey, I hope you enjoyed our Freedom series, which includes 8 shows with 8 talented real estate industry legends. How can we work more together? I help real estate investors in a few different ways. I'd love to help you get to know you better. And here's how. I run the Investor Fuel Mastermind. It is a leading mastermind association of America's top real estate investors. You can learn more about it at investorfuel.com. In fact, our next meeting is coming up very fast. If you go to investorfuel.com, you can learn more, schedule a call to talk with our team. The second way is I help real estate investors generate better leads. I'm the co-founder of an agency that we call The Investor Machine. You can learn more at theinvestormachine.com. We help take consistent and high quality lead generation off of your plate so you can focus on getting more of your life back and driving the business. The third way is I have a professional real estate investor network group. It's a free Facebook group for professional real estate investors only, not for newbies. I have a soft spot in my heart for newbies as well, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you're experienced, if you're actively doing deals each and every month, you should check out our professional real estate investor network by going to flipnerd.com/professional. That'll redirect you to the right Facebook group. And last but not least, For the past almost 7 years, we've created over 1,500 video podcast shows, hundreds of blogs, lots of free training, all on flipnerd.com. You can go there and check it out.